What is up, guys? This is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and today I'm bringing all of you guys my updated Madolche deck profile for this brand new July 2015 ban list. Now, after quite a bit of testing, I finally have settled on the Madolche list that I am particularly pleased with. And as a little disclaimer, I will say that this is the Psychic Madolche variant, as I felt this is the best variant right now because it has plays that can actually combat the meta fairly well. So I just want to let all of you guys know, and enough of me talking about it, let's get right into the deck profile. Alrighty, so starting us off, we have but of course, actually, we have the 3 copies of Madolche Angeli, because she is our 1 card plus 2, excuse me, as well as she is our primary combo piece that we will be wanting to combo off of a multitude of the cards in our deck. So of course we have to have 3 of her just so we can see it as often and as early as we can, because again, Angeli is just so darn good. Following that, we have our 3 copies of Madolche Madolche, because Madolche is our Stratos of the deck and can usually grab us just this card again. As well as on the odd occasion when we might already have an Angeli, Madolche can also fetch us another Madolche combo piece that we might want to use to pair with Angeli. So that is again helping us with our consistency. Following that, we have our 3 copies of Madolche Hootcake, because Hootcake will be the monster usually that will be summoning off of our Angeli. So of course we have to have that 1-to-1 ratio of Hootcakes to Angeli to ensure that both cards will never eventually become dead in the grindier games. Next up, we have our 2 copies of Madolche Messengelato, because he does search us out our 2 Madolche spells within the deck. And we only have 2 Messengelato for the fact that he can be fairly awkward to draw sometimes, and he can be pretty cloggy at 3. So that is why I decided to go with that happy medium of 2. Finally, for the last 2 Madolches we do run, we have our 2 copies of Madolche Mufway, as Mufway does act as our Satellar Knight Vega of the deck, and can combo actually very well with our Madolche Angeli, usually ending in the board of a Levier and this beautiful card right here. So of course we have the 2 Mufway. Now we don't run 3 because of the fact that we have a ton of other cards actually to pair with Angeli, but we do just have Mufway to just be an archetype specific card that we can also use to be with Angeli. So that will be it for our Madolche monsters. Moving on, we go into our mini Psychic engine, I guess you could say. With the 3 psychics we do run, we have the 1 copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, the 1 copy of Esper Girl, and then finally the 1 copy of Recover. Now, going up by levels in ascending order, we have the Recover here, just to give us access to Naturia Beast, alongside any one of our level 4 Madolches, again, because Naturia Beast is essentially like a Ginlock against things like Clyfort and Necros, as if they cannot have an immediate out to it, they really cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh! So of course having access to that beast is very strong. Likewise, Esper Girl also gives us access to Naturia Beast alongside our level 3 Madolches, as well as Esper Girl can get us into Naturia Barkion, which is very essential against things like Volcanics and Satellar Knights. Finally, we have the Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit to add as more Clyfort hate, as we usually will be using it as a hand trap in that matchup, as again, we don't like Clyfort Scout, as Clyfort is probably one of the worst matchups for this deck. So we do have the 1 mainboarded Ghost Ogre to act as some hate for that deck, as well as it is a level 3, so we can use it to pair alongside our Angeli to again combo off. Moving on, we go into quite a few hand traps actually, and we're going to start off that hand trap lineup with 2 copies of Construction Train Signal Red. Now, Madolche's never really had that good of a defense at all, really. Like, ever since this archetype's introduction, it really never had good defense. So, that's where Train Signal will be coming in. As what Train Signal does read, for those of you who do not know what his effect is that when an opponent declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, change the attack target to this card and proceed to damage calculation. This card cannot be destroyed by that battle. So essentially what Train Signal does is that it can block 1 attack for free as long as you do again have it in your hand, and then it'll just special summon itself to the field and then block that attack for you. So that alone can help you avoid some key OTKs by stopping some important damage, as well as again you get a free monster from it. So the really cool thing is that because Train Signal is a level 3, and again the main goal of this deck is to try and get free level 3 monsters alongside your Angeli, you can also use Train Signal to combo again with your Angeli. So that's also pretty cool, and again helps you with the consistency as well as helps you with that defense. So it just gives you so many benefits. Following that, we have two copies of Swagodia. I like to call it Swagodia, don't ask why. It just fits. But yes, we do have two copies of Tragodia in this deck for the fact that, much like Train Signal, we can use Tragodia to sort of stop some OTKs. But I should also mention that because Madolche naturally plays with a large hand because of things like Madolche Chateau, we can actually get Tragodia up to fairly high attack points, upwards of 2400. And I will say that that's fairly significant because that will be just enough to get over things like Necros of Unicorn as well as El Shadow Window, which both monsters can just really shut down Madolche. So we do have Tragodia to, again, try and get over those big floodgate monsters. And then also another benefit that Tragodia does bring to the table is that it has its level manipulation effect. So if we ever do have any level 3s in Graveyard, we can actually use Tragodia to copy that level and again, combo off with our Angeli. So again, he also just provides a lot more utility and explosiveness to the deck. Finally, for the last two monsters in our main deck, we have mainboarded two copies of Maxi for the fact that Burning Abyss and Shaddoll do special summon a lot, as well as things like, I guess, Satellar Knights too. So we want to have some kind of advantageous card against those matchups. So we do have the Maxi to just really punish them if they decide to go in, or at least stop their big plays from continuing. So that will be it for the monster lineup. Moving on to the spells, we start off with the Madolche spells first, and then we have one copy of Madolche Ticket and Madolche Chateau. I have been saying this for quite a bit, that I feel that multiples of either card is not that good anymore, just because of how the format is and how fast the format is right now with things like Necros, Cloyfort, and again, Shaddolls and Burning Abyss and all those scary things. So I felt that drawing into either of these cards on your turn 1 or turn 2 is really, really bad, as neither card by themselves will get you a play, as you'd rather see other cards that can actually get you to your plays, like a Magellan or another Angeli or whatnot. So because of how these cards don't really advance your game state outside of maybe turn 2 or turn 3, I don't want to draw into these cards early game, so that is why I did decide to minimize the amount of both cards, as both cards are searchable by Messengelato, so seeing them won't be the issue. That is why I felt that one copy of each was just fine. Moving on, we have our 3 copies of Emergency Teleport, which is probably the best combo piece card that we have in the deck to pair alongside Angeli, as Emergency Teleport plus Angeli can equal, I'm off the top of my head, probably about 7 different plays? I don't know. It's just something ridiculous. Like, Emergency Teleport in this deck just gets you to your Synchro plays, your big combo piece Tiara Misu plays, and it just gets you a lot of different, a variety of plays, I actually should say, that can just get you and adapt you to pretty much any situation that you find yourself in. So that is, of course, why we do have the 3 E-Tele plus the 3 Psychics in this deck, just again, because they can get you to some very, very good plays nowadays. Following that, we also have 2 more combo piece spell cards in the form of 2 copies of Instant Fusion. Now, we also have Instant Fusion, again, to try and bump up the consistency as much as we possibly can in this deck, as the 2 Instant Fusion can just grab us any level 3 or 4 Fusion monster in our extra deck, which we do run, to again help us get those XYZ plays off easier and much more efficiently. I should also mention that we really won't dead draw either this or Emergency Teleport together, as the cool thing is we can actually mismatch some of our combo pieces, and we can still actually do plays with them, which is really cool, as we can actually still use the instant fusion monster we summon, as well as things like an E-Tele again, to make our synchro plays. So again, it's really cool because it just gives us a lot more utility, and it gives us a lot more flexibility within our plays. Moving on, we have our 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, because we like a 37 card deck, because it's just more consistent, obviously, than a 40 card deck. So of course we have the 3 Upstarts just to make our deck as consistent as possible. Then, following that, we have the 2 copies of Forbidden Lands to help us avoid things like Raigeki, or awkward things like Skill Drain and Lose One Turn, and all those kind of scary stuff, and like all those other things that can floodgate you or stop you in your tracks. So, of course, we have, again, the 2 Forbidden Lands to add a little bit more protection to our monsters. Then, finally, for the last 2 spells we do run, we have the 1 copy of Raigeki and the 1 Book of Wound, because they're probably the best staple spells right now, so of course we have to run them. So that will be it for these spells, and then moving on to our final 4 cards, which is our 4 traps. We start off with 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill. Now, I did prefer Breakthrough Skill over Fiendish Chain in this specific deck, because, like I said before, we really don't like the Necros of Unicorn or El Shaddol Winda, as both cards can just single-handedly shut down your deck. So I wanted to have Breakthrough Skill in this deck just for the fact that I can already use Breakthrough Skill once while I set it, and then if my opponent does commit to a Necros of Unicorn or an El Shaddai window, I can use it on my turn again to shut down their Floodgate effect and then combo off. So that is why I felt Breakthrough Skill was much more better in this deck than Fiendish Chain. Then finally, for our last two trap cards, and this might be kind of a tech, I guess you could say, I run two copies of Divine Wrath. Now, I run the Divine Wrath for the fact that it does provide some more effect negation, but because of how it is a counter trap and you cannot respond to it, the opponent cannot really do much about what effect I'm negating, as previously with things like my effect veilers and whatnot. I have run into many times where I have attempted to effect veiler a Necros of Trishula, and then all my opponent would have to do is, okay, I'm going to Trishula my Trishula, and then I still get my main deck on field Trishula off, and it's like, well, then what can I do? So that is why I decided to opt for Divine Wrath, because the cost is not so bad in this deck because you will have quite a bit of hand advantage. So that's why I can actually run Divine Wrath to just, again, give me that counter trap negation, which is really important against things like Necros and whatnot. So that will round off our 40-card main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. We start off with, of course, our big boss monster herself. We have our two copies of Madolche Queen Tiramisu, because arguably she has probably the best form of removal in the game, with non-targeting, bouncing back to deck. So that in and of itself makes her viable, and she is the one, again, that makes this whole deck viable. So of course we have the two Tiramisu to act as our big boss monster. Moving on, we have our two copies of Levier the Sea Dragon to act as our combo piece XYZs that we will use in our majority of our combos to again help us get into our Queen Tiramisus. Then we also have the one copy of MX Saber Invoker, again when we don't have access to the Levier play, but we can still go into our rank 4s with it. So of course we have the one MX Saber Invoker for those awkward situations. Then we have the one copy of number 103 for that Clyfort matchup. We have the one copy of Heroic Champion Excalibur for that Apocryphal Towers out to that accursed, I swear to God, that accursed excuse me, that Apocryphal Towers Turbo. Then we have the two Tellarknight XYZs, which is the Ptolemy and the Constellar Diamond, because we don't like BA or Shaddolls either. Then we also have two rank 3s, which are the Mechweb Engineer and the one copy of Ghost Trick Alucard. Now, I will say that although both of these bring individual benefits to the table, you should be cutting one for a Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier. I did not include one in this list for the fact that I do not have one yet, but again, I will say that one of these should be a Trishula. So keep that in mind. You can cut whichever one you don't like or personally don't like or find not to be as useful for a Trishula. But again, for now, I do run both, again, because I personally don't have a Trishula, which is, again, fairly sad. Okay then, moving on to our synchros, we have one copy of Naturia Beast and one copy of Barkion. Again, like I said, Trishula should be accompanying the synchros monsters, but currently I don't have one yet. So for now, we do have the Naturia synchros, again, to act as sorts of Genlocks against decks that they are effective against. Finally, for our last two extra deck monsters, we have our one copy of Fusionist and our one copy of Carbonala Warrior, again, to just be our instant fusion targets. And then I gotta show off my Yu-Gi-Oh! Day token, which I now have sitting permanently at the bottom of my extra deck. Yay! Well then, alright guys, I hope you all did enjoy this brand new and updated Madolche deck, I cannot speak right now at the end, oh my lord. I hope you all did enjoy my updated Madolche deck profile for this brand new July 2015 format. And, whoa, I just realized that I went above 14 minutes, so I will apologize for taking a bit longer than usual. But of course, this is Madolche, and I do enjoy very much talking about my favorite deck. So again, I do apologize for making it a slightly longer video, but again, I hope you all did enjoy this video. And as always, this is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and I'll see all of you guys later. Peace out.